Hey guys, my name is Bethany, and I used to work for the post office. While I was on the shipping side, I had to deliver all kinds of packages to the strangest people. But you know, I never had such a scary and horrible experience as I did that one time. The time I had to send a Craigslist package to the wrong people. The box was small, nothing flashy. I was alone that day as my shipping partner was sick, although he asked me not to tell the bosses. This may seem strange, but in some cities, it's more normal than you think. I must admit that I have done the same thing several times. Anyway, once I arrived at a somewhat old-fashioned house on the outskirts of the city, I rang the doorbell and a strange lady came out of the house. The lady was very poorly cared for, possibly at least 70 years old, but she was very nice, and nothing prevented her from greeting me with a big smile. She asked me to come into the house with her. Initially, I said no, I had to keep working, but I must admit that after she insisted, I felt a little sorry for her, as she told me she needed my help to open the contents of the box. Once I entered the house, strange things happened. The lady locked the door immediately. I asked her why she did it, but she replied that they do it for security reasons. She was afraid someone would come in. I must admit that up to that point, it was kinda creepy, but it made sense. I sat at her table while she made me a cup of tea. I knew what I was doing was wrong, but it wouldn't kill me to take a little break. After all, I was ahead of schedule with deliveries, and being alone left me a little tired. While I was waiting for the tea, the lady was behaving stranger and stranger. She started rambling, telling me things that didn't make sense, as if she was talking to someone in front of her, but at the same time answering herself. The lady poured me a cup of tea, and when I tasted it, I spit it out immediately. It tasted terrible, like drinking dirty water. I immediately apologized to the lady, but she didn't pay any attention. She just stared at me with a terrifying smile that paralyzed me from head to toe. I was about to stand up and leave, but I felt something on my feet. For sure, it was a dog. I was too scared to pet or even look at the dog licking my feet. So, to cut the tension, I told the lady that her dog was very cute, and her response froze me in my tracks. "Dear, what are you talking about? I don't have any pets." I slowly bent down, and there it was. That was not a dog, but an old man. I screamed and fell backward, hurting my back. From under the table came out an old man in diapers. His smile was as tetric as the lady's, and he was also staring at me. Without saying anything, I ran as fast as I could. I tried to exit through the usual door, but it was locked. Suddenly, both old people were in front of me. I know I could have defended myself, but my body prevented me from doing so. I fell, crying, to the ground, at the mercy of the frail but terrifying elders. I heard a noise, and when I opened my eyes, the door was open. "Silly, you can't leave if the door is locked." I ran out of the house, watching as the two old men greeted me with wide eyes and huge smiles. As I got into the van, I checked the details of their purchase. They were the ones in charge of receiving the package, but at the same time, they were the ones who sent it. Have you ever bought anything on Craigslist? On this platform, you can buy a lot of products, some more normal than others. But if you explore and look hard enough, you'll discover a very scary underworld on Craigslist. People are selling haunted and scary stuff, kind of like the deep web, but public. My name is Hugo, and I'm a YouTuber who's dedicated to the investigation of the paranormal, and through Craigslist, I may have found more of what I was looking for. It all started when I ordered a doll just like Annabelle, you know, the one from the movie. But the one I ordered was not that terrifying doll created to satisfy the impatient Hollywood public. The one I bought was an exact copy of the original Annabelle, the terrifying and innocent rag doll. I waited anxiously. I knew I could get anything. A poorly made doll, a lousy imitation, and it might not even come to me, but to my surprise, I was wrong. The doll was exactly the same as the original. Just looking at it gave me a horrible feeling that something was wrong. I knew it was just an imitation and probably just a fake, but that didn't relieve me for a second. Once I left the doll in the dining room, I went to the kitchen to pour myself a drink. But to my surprise and terror, the power simply went out. I tried to breathe calmly. Power outages just happen. I can't pin this on a simple rag doll. I decided to pluck up my courage and go check the generator outside my house. But as soon as I made my way to the dining room, I knew something was wrong. Where was the doll? It was all dark. It wasn't because of the power outage, as there was plenty of light coming in from outside. But despite this, the place was flooded in a strange and unusual darkness that did not allow me to see anything. I told myself that this could not be happening, that it was probably a problem with my eyes. I took a few more steps there, trying to clear my vision, until what I saw was too obvious to deny it any longer. From where Annabelle was standing, something was looking at me. A huge shadow that seemed to be holding her was standing and reaching almost to the roof of my house, as if it was 10 feet tall. My body froze, and I couldn't run for my life. As if knowing it, that being walked coldly in my direction. With every step he took, the darkness took over more and more of the place. Even when it was in front of me, it was impossible to see it. I closed my eyes in fear, and at that moment, it was right in front of me. I couldn't see him, but I could hear, smell, and even feel him. His slow but hot breaths bounced against my face. He bent down to be at my level. I could hear it open his mouth a little at a time, as if provoking me, enjoying my fear. It came closer and closer until suddenly it was all over. The light suddenly returned, and as if nothing had happened, I regained the mobility of my body. No one was in front of me, but when I looked in Annabelle's direction, my blood froze once again. Annabelle was still in the same position I had put it, but this time it was turned around, facing my direction. In a matter of seconds, I decided to wrap it up and return it to the cellar. I didn't even risk throwing it away. I knew it could come back if I did. Today, I still have a YouTube channel, but now I no longer try to explain the paranormal. You never know how far our curiosity can take us. Hey, my name is Trish. Although I'm good with kids, I'm one of those babysitters who have a hard time interacting with other adults and making myself known as a babysitter. Well, luckily, I found out that Craigslist also offers services. It's not just a portal to buy and sell things. Using Craigslist, I got several babysitting jobs, and for the first time in my 18 years of life, I started earning money. But this little job didn't last long, as something forced me to interrupt it. At first, it seemed like a normal job with just a little quirk. A single father had hired me to babysit his son. Usually parents wait for me to arrive before they leave, so they can meet me or at least see my face, but not this one. When I arrived at the house, there was no one there, just the little boy who came to greet me with a big hug and a lot of kisses on my face. It seemed too euphoric, but at the same time, a little tender. Well, as the afternoon progressed, everything became stranger. Although he was a big boy, about 10 years old, he needed my help with almost everything. He would ask me to help him eat, stroke his head, and take off his clothes because the room was too warm. I was surprised that a child of that age required so much attention. Possibly that's how the father raised him. After eating, it was time to go to sleep, but the father had written that the son could eat ice cream. The child not only ate it in a disgusting and repulsive way, putting it in his mouth with his hands and dirtying everything, but to make it worse, he would put his hands with the ice cream in my mouth for me to taste. If I refused, he would cry and make a lot of noise until I finally gave in. After that, I began to smell a very strange but familiar smell. That's when I realized that the boy hadn't made it to the bathroom. So not only did he make me clean his clothes, but I had to clean him as well. After that, the time finally came. The boy was finally going to take a bath and then go to sleep. I took off all his clothes, although he was too shy to take off his underwear for some reason, but I accepted it. In the worst-case scenario, I could wash him later. During his shower, the boy asked me to soap and wash him, and even threw water on my top. It was all very uncomfortable. I had never dealt with anyone like this before, and it only made me wonder who was the strange man who raised him. I only knew that I didn't want to be there when he arrived. I grabbed the boy's clothes and went to his room to get a towel, until a smell I didn't recognize this time made me look under the bed. When I did, I couldn't help but scream in terror. Under the bed was a corpse. It was still fresh. What could have caused this? Suddenly, a phone from the dining room started ringing, and I ran over. Maybe it was the boy's father. I had to tell him to call the police. The killer might still be nearby. I had to take the boy away as soon as possible. I ran downstairs, but the noise of the phone came from a cell phone under an armchair. When I bent down to grab it, I not only had the phone in my hands, but something else. It was an ID card of a man over 30 years old. I knew that face. It was the face of the child I was taking care of. That wasn't a child. That was a grown man. Suddenly, I heard a scream at the top of the stairs. It was him, looking at me while laughing with a face full of perversion and cruelty. He knew I had found out the truth. "Hey, Trish, I've had my bath. Will you tell me a bedtime story?" In shock, I ran for the exit while he was still laughing. He never tried to chase me or hurt me. He just enjoyed seeing me terrified, crying, and trying to escape. I called the police immediately. Although they found no boy or his father, they discovered that the dead body belonged to a man who lived alone in that house and had no children. I never heard from that terrifying psychopath again. From that day on, I could overcome my fears and start working with people in my neighborhood, people I knew. Every time I think about how that man took advantage of me and made me do all the things I did, I cry, and I just cry myself to sleep and forget about it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, join us by subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications so you never miss new videos. If you have a story that you would like to be featured in one of the future videos, please submit it to an email in the description below. And thank you for being a part of our community.